A friend of mine's daughter has Down syndrome, and he shared with me how the pandemic changed his daughter's life. Pre-pandemic, he would take his daughter to the daycare center where she would be with caregivers, she'd be with her friends, she'd be learning, she'd be playing games. She really didn't like going to the daycare center. It caused her stress, getting in the car, traveling, being out of her environment, being out of her comfort zone. Like so many in the world, early 2020, the daycare center pivoted to a virtual environment, much like everybody else. This changed my friend's daughter's life. She would wake up happy and excited in the morning about joining her Zoom meeting so she could be there with her caregivers and her friends from the comfort of her own home, from an environment that she was super familiar with. This made me realize how the virtual environment wasn't just changing our professional lives, it was changing our social lives too. Pre-pandemic, I used to be on 3 or 4 flights a week. Suddenly, Sunday, March 1st, 2020, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, big stop sign goes up. Yep, I was grounded. I didn't know how long for, still grounded. Furthest I went was a walk around my neighborhood. Big change for me. Started thinking. Suddenly I was in this virtual environment, and I realized how much more productive I was, how I was connecting with people around the world, be it Tel Aviv, be it Germany, be it Tokyo, from the comfort of my own home. I realized how much happier I was, sleeping in my own bed, having breakfast with my wife every morning, making dinner every night. I was happier, I was healthier, diet not so good, but working on that. But I also reflected on how much of my life I had missed. I used to be in my office in Midtown Manhattan at 7 a.m. in the morning, get home at 9 o'clock at night. I missed my kids growing up. I was a weekend parent. So many things changed in 2020 and 2021. Everything changed. Every industry changed. You name it. Governments, healthcare industry, education, everything changed, and I believe forever. I don't know about everybody here. I'm pretty sure all of you have been working really hard for the last couple of years. I know I have been working really hard. I know hundreds of millions of people have been working really hard. Everybody's talking about returning to work. That's crazy. We've been working really hard. It really isn't about returning to work. What is it about? It's about returning to the office. And that brings up the question, what is the office? Many enterprises around the world have been studying what is the purpose of the office. They've come to the conclusion, general consensus, is the office is a place where people will come together to work together, to ideate, to create, to brainstorm, to create new products and to create new services. I used to say to my wife, Rachel, I'm going to the office, I'm going to work right now. That was a lie. I wasn't going to work right now. I was going to the office, and then I would work. Brings up the topic, what is work? Work is actually something we do. Work is, we get engaged. And I'd like at this point to recognize all those frontline workers, all our healthcare workers, all the people who could not work in a virtual environment like hundreds of millions of people could. They were out there in the warehouses, packing the goods, loading the trucks, getting the supplies, getting our food, and also our vaccines. So big shout out to all those. In the pre-pandemic world, we liked meeting in person. That's how we operated. That's how we functioned. We would travel. I would be on planes. We go into offices. We go into conference rooms. That's what we did. And occasionally, we would augment that with video. Had the pandemic lasted weeks or a few months as originally predicted, we would have pivoted right back to that. But given that we've been 22 months in this pandemic, and it ain't over, folks, I think we all know that. Every day we wake up, guess what? We're one day closer to it being over. I don't know when it's going to be over, though. And this way of operating now in this virtual world has become kind of like a muscle memory. It's the way we behave. It's the way we function. So I fundamentally believe that in our future, irrespective of the logo on my business card, in the future, we will be leading in a virtual world, and we will augment that with video. Employees have really engaged in this virtual environment. They're so much happier. They don't miss that grueling commute, and especially up here in the Northeast with the cold coming and the snow coming, who's going to miss that traveling to work in the snow? They're at home and are able to see their kids off to school in the morning. And it's great that our kids are back in school. It's where they belong. They can be there when their kids get home. They can be there to take care of an aged parent. And employers are engaging in this too. Employers are seeing that they can be geographically agnostic in terms of hiring talent, which is both good and bad. A couple of cases. CIO client in Alabama was telling me how he was insulated from big tech. But guess what? Big tech is in Alabama. In 1 week, they hired 5 people from his team, double the salary, and said, guess what? You can continue to work in Alabama. We don't need you to relocate to California. And it wasn't Zoom. We didn't hire his 5 people, so don't think that. An employee, a colleague of mine, she and her husband are relatively new parents. I think it's now about 8 weeks in. And she is so excited about being able to be home and raise her child, as is her husband, who's also working from home. And of course, we get time to spend with our best friends. My wife is also my best friend, but in case you're watching, sweetheart, love you. But this is my pandemic puppy. This is Hershey. He would have been here tonight, but the hotel had a problem with dogs, and I don't have a certification to bring him in. But he's been with me every day, and he's a lot of fun. People talk about the post-pandemic. The post-pandemic is going to be this era of flexibility. The Future Forum, which is an organization from Slack, did a survey of 10,000 knowledge workers from Europe, US, and Asia. And of these 10,000 people that were surveyed, 57% said they were going to find a new job in the next 12 months. 76% of these people said they wanted flexibility about, I have to get this right, I always get these two confused. 76% said they wanted flexibility about where they worked, and 93% wanted flexibility about when they worked. Think about that for a second, let it sink in. 76% flexibility about when? Where? I told you I got it mixed up. And 93% get flexibility about when. That's pretty amazing. The Great Resignation is on. I'm sure you've all read the headlines. 4 million people resigned from their jobs in August. 4.4 million people resigned from their jobs just in the US in September. We've all been living in this virtual world. Everybody's head is the same size. Everybody has the same amount of screen real estate. It works for introverts, it works for extroverts. There is no hierarchy in this virtual environment. And so the big challenge that we've got now is, as we go to this hybrid working model, how do we maintain this inclusivity? How do we maintain this equality? How do we collaborate in this hybrid world? Super excited about some of the things that we're doing at Zoom. We introduced what we call Smart Gallery, where we're using artificial intelligence to stream people in a conference room out as individual tiles to help from a feeling of equality, so there is no second-class citizen. We're introducing our persistent whiteboarding with an infinite canvas, leveraging Oculus, which is these virtual reality headsets from Meta, as part of our persistent whiteboarding, so you can have a real immersive collaborative conversation. And we're using machine language for things like language translation and language transcription so that we can promote more equality and be inclusive. When I think about artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, and machine learning, it's like we are barely scratching the surface on how these technologies are going to be used. In the future, we'll be able to smell. In the future, we'll be able to do a virtual handshake. In the future, we'll be able to get those bear hugs. And that's going to be super cool. So, in March, I was cleaning out my office because I'm a hoarder, unlike everybody else in this room. I'm sure no one hoards. And I came across this cartoon. And it reads, this is a bunch of tech people standing in front of a mainframe computer, sorry. And it reads, she's doing it, she's pulling the files from her mainframe computer to her digital watch. Not that funny today. Let's drill in a little bit. Harry, this is from a friend of mine, Tony, and a former colleague. Harry, the next step for If Downloads, a system that we had built back in our days at UBS. But zooming in, no pun intended, a little bit more, look at the date on this. November the 7th, 1990, 31 years ago. That was a joke. Today, it's a reality. Can you just imagine what's in our future? If I had one choice, I'd love to go back 20 years earlier in my career, because it's just going to be so much fun. We've learned an awful lot over the last 22 months. We've learned that the office is a place, a space where we can work. We've learned that work is something we do, and our families must come first. We've learned how to lead and manage in a virtual environment, and we've learned how to develop fantastic professional relationships and social relationships around the globe in a virtual world. The worst thing we can do now is pivot back to how things were. We have to leverage these learnings, we have to leverage these experiences so that we can, for both a professional and social perspective, build a better world for our children and generations to come. Thank you.